On the air and streaming on the web since 1996, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Today on Soundtrack Alley. Listen as Erik Woods and I delve deep into the post-apocalyptic world of Waterworld. We'll discuss the film, its interesting background, the clever use of the Universal logo, and of course the score by James Newton Howard. It's all today, and it begins now. Hello, I am Randy Andrews. I'm your host, and it's great to be back with you, Erik. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to be back with you once again. I can't remember. What was the last show we did together?
We did Jurassic Park.
Did Jurassic Park, yeah. It seems like it's been forever ago. And it seems like it's been forever ago since we recorded Legend. I think we recorded it, and then a month later I edited it, and then we finally released it. So yeah, it has been a while since you and I had a good chat about a movie here.
Yeah, and today we get to talk about Waterworld. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Every time you talk about this, you just can't wait to get into it. So I'm kind of interested to hear. Well, yeah. Why is it one of your favorite movies?
Why? Because I saw it when it came out to theaters, and I was not out of high school yet. But there was a local theater inside the largest mall in Omaha at the time. It was Westroads. And they had a sixplex theater, and I saw many of my beloved favorite movies there. But this one impressed me so much because not only was it the really first time I was so deeply aware of the film score, but I was really enthralled with the action, and I had seen Mad Max prior to seeing Waterworld, and it really like amped up my energy for enjoying the movie. And it had like a perfect blend of excitement and danger and action and comedy and awe and wonder. And then my friend at the time, he knew I liked the film, and then for graduation he bought me the score on CD, and it had pretty much been the first CD that was ever gifted to me, and I played that score so much that about 8 months ago, I had to replace it because I had worn it out so much because I had listened to it constantly.
You wore out a CD?
I wore out a CD. It was so scratched, so worn out because I had played it too much. And it would skip. Like it would literally skip at certain points in the CD because I would play that track quite often. And I'm like, really? This is the one track that I really like, and you skip. So I had to buy me a new CD.
Well, thank goodness we have La La Land's expanded edition now. Thank goodness.
Yeah. But this movie is just a perfect post-apocalyptic movie, and it's so much fun. And I know it was very expensive, but it was just awesome. It just really was. It was so awesome. How about for you? When did you first see the movie?
Yeah, this was an amazing time for me going to the movies. Mainly because my friend Tim, my best friend, was is still legally blind, and so he basically has like tunnel vision. And the way he explained it to me was like, if you put two straws in front of your eyes, that's what he sees. So he can see, but like he has no peripheral vision, can't see in the dark. So the great thing about that, if there is any, positives, the CNIB here in Canada, they offer you're part of it and you get this card. And the thing is about this card is that as a blind person, you're offered free services within, I guess, the city or even in the province or maybe even in the country. And so one of those things is like free transportation to get around. And on top of that, you can go see movies for free. But he needs somebody to be with him. So the guide, which is usually me, gets in for free as well. And he needed a guide. He did. He couldn't see, being in the theater. So we'd always have to sit in the back. It was always dark. He couldn't see a darn thing in the dark theater, but once the screen lit up, he could see the movie just fine. And so this is 1995, and we were just out of control watching movies. It was absolutely insane. And everything that was new came out. We were on the bus. We'd go downtown to our favorite theater, and we'd watch a movie. And sometimes we see 3 movies in a weekend. I remember when the Star Wars special editions came out, we watched Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi on the same day. It's just great. Like we literally went back in line after Star Wars, and then we said, "Hey, we're going in to watch Empire." Then we got dinner and went to see Return of the Jedi. We saw everything imaginable. So Waterworld was one of these movies, and I can remember it vividly because we did talk about it afterwards. We had heard the stories about, it was running over budgets. It's one of the most expensive movies ever made, and I think at the time it was the most expensive film ever made because of all the issues they were having. They had to rebuild the atoll, I think, after either a hurricane or something destroyed it. And so there was all this negative press. And so, it was keeping people away from the theaters, and we were kind of hesitant on going to see it. I mean, even though the film actually turned out to be a box office success. So we were like, oh, I think we saw a couple of other movies before we decided to go Waterworld. We're like, yeah, do you want to go see Waterworld? We're like, what the heck? I mean, we're not doing anything here on Sunday, so let's go. So I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. And I had no idea about the behind the scenes issues with the score or anything like that. I was relatively new into soundtracks and like actually paying attention to it. It was like around 1993 where I really, really, really got into it and I started buying scores and whatnot. So I went in and I can remember the whole opening sequence with the smokers and then hearing that score explode with James Newton Howard's, main theme for the Mariner and just the sheer amount of fun the film eventually turned out to be. And afterwards we talked about it, we're like, this wasn't bad. This was actually a really good time at the movies. And we really, really enjoyed it. And I didn't see it again until many, many years later, I guess when it came out on DVD. And the funny thing is about that score, I remember the theme. I don't remember much about it afterwards, but then I was, I think it was in like second year of college, and I was talking online with somebody, and I think it was somebody who had was a webmaster of one of the early John Williams web pages. And, he said, have you ever heard Waterworld? I'm like, oh yeah, I saw the movie, but I don't own the score. And he says it's like one of the greatest action scores ever written. And so I'm like, okay, fine. I got to go and pick up the greatest action soundtrack of all time. And Sam the Record Man in Lime Ridge Mall in Hamilton. And I remember exactly where it was, picked it up, ran home and listened to that album. And I was just absolutely blown away. Track after track of just beautiful themes, thunderous action music. it was just a phenomenal listen, and the guy was right. It is still, to this day, it still remains one of the best action adventure scores I think ever written. And even James Newton Howard would tell you that he just threw everything at this one. He was still relatively new. He'd written, I think at that time, about 40 scores in maybe 7 years or so. And he gets this job after Mark Isham was let go. And the thing about Kevin Costner, he's pretty much hands off when it comes down to writing music. So James Newton Howard was pretty much free to go. And he threw everything in this. And it is just absolutely superb. So again, after seeing the movie again, home video, I thought, wow, this is pretty darn good. It's great. And then seeing it again a couple of weeks ago, we're in a time frame where CGI is dominating a lot of the summer blockbusters, and to see practical effects, as many practical effects in this movie and so little CGI. And again, I have nothing against CGI, but today they would make this with, tons of computer generated this and
Fake
that. And it wouldn't, fake backgrounds. They wouldn't have filmed on the water. So just seeing an actual functioning boat and great cinematography of like everything's in the frame, and what's in the frame was actually shot, with the exception of a couple of CGI monsters and whatnot, and a couple of other visual effects. But I mean, the practicality of it, like a literal atoll, they built that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a living city on the water.
Yeah, let me see. I had that. It said it was a 1/4 mile in circumference. The size of a football stadium, contained 1 million tons of steel. I mean, that's just crazy.
It's just crazy, and I'm glad they did it. I mean, I know it. I think it got destroyed. They had to rebuild it.
And it was on a rotating platform.
You just appreciate that. I appreciate
so
that.
Cool.
I appreciate the man hours, the actual construction. Real hands had to build that. You can actually go on it. You can stage, like, the whole action scene at the atoll is absolutely incredible. And that that stuff resonates with me. That stuff genuinely thrills me. And so, anytime I can see a real chase, real cars, real anything, like, I mean, crying out loud, there's a real skyboat in this. And it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So I appreciate it every time I see it, especially now in this day and age, where I can see practical effects and great practical effects and real sets and real stunts. Like Kevin Costner was doing most of his stunts in this movie as well. Maybe there's flaws about the movie, but I appreciate all of the effort that went into making this. I really do love it.
Mm-hmm. Me too. It's just one of my favorite films and favorite film scores. It is one of my tops. Like, if I had a level of 3 main film scores that reach my level, it's Waterworld, Crawl, and The Wrath of Khan.
It's all great stuff.
Those are 3 main scores. I mean, of course, I have many more, but those 3.
Yeah, there's always these scores you can always think of, like, what am I going to listen to today? And if you can't figure it out, you always have these ones you can always reach for and always have a good time with. And I mean, and you're thinking about, I mean, I know we're talking about the score still, but I mean, just think about the type of career that James Newton Howard was having in the early to mid 90s and what he was writing. I mean, the package, I guess you can say, is one of his early action scores written in 1989. But he was doing a lot of comedies, a lot of dramas, and then we get into, Alive and The Fugitive, and then just a year earlier, and this is how Kevin Costner found James Newton Howard, Wyatt Earp. And I mean, you're talking about one of his career best scores. And then just think about, you hear that, which is a stunning creation, and then just a year later having, what was it, 3, 4, 5 weeks to write the music for Waterworld, and he's just still on fire. And then of course there's Outbreak as well. And so he was just getting started, but he was still writing extraordinary music earlier on in his career.
One of the things that was in the notes about his career was he used Goldsmith as a model for his career. For a lot of the influence on his music, it was Goldsmith. And I thought that was just brilliant. It was so cool because he had been quoted and he said that Goldsmith was one of the biggest influences for him to do the score. Howard said that Goldsmith's writing had a grandeur of his action sequence. They weren't fast, they weren't slow in tempo. That really stands out to me. This score has so many moments that are not excitingly fast, but they are well-conceived, brilliant set pieces of music that are not crazy, but still full of oomph and stands out in the score. And it's so true.
I think the action music, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily Goldsmithian, but I can understand where he's talking about, because he doesn't necessarily have to hit every sync point in the scene, and and you're right, he doesn't have to go over the top crazy and frenetic in order to make it exciting. And that's what gives the score. The score is still always moving forward, which a lot of Jerry's scores do as well. Like the action music, just keeping you moving forward and keeping the scene going. James Newton Howard does a lot of that in this film. But I mean, the big Jerry Goldsmith influence in Waterworld is not necessarily action music. It was the Prodigal Child theme that he wrote. And if you listen to it, when Jerry Goldsmith is doing those kind of lush, intimate type of scenes, I mean, I think about New Sight from Star Trek Insurrection. That's the one that comes to mind when I'm hearing Prodigal Child. And that's where you can definitely hear the Goldsmith influence. It's really, really beautiful music.
You also hear it in The Secret of Nim.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that is one of Jerry Goldsmith's favorite scores that he wrote.
And the thing is, some people have kind of compared this to maybe John Williams, but I wouldn't say it's John Williams, although it's It's quite thematic, but I can remember James Newton Howard saying that he was more influenced by some of the Golden Age swashbucklers, and especially Hugo Friedhofer. But yeah, it's I would like to hear what Isham came up with, and there's one piece of source music that is available on the La La Land Records release, the Music Box theme, which he had to write before filming because they needed that theme and they needed Enola to sing it in the movie. But I think if Kevin Costner wanted something that was more adventurous and not as bleak, then James Newton Howard was probably the right decision, and maybe it was the right choice to get rid of Mark Isham, no matter how unfair that is. It's interesting to think, though. I mean, we're talking about Isham and James Newton Howard. I mean, we have to explain that. Kevin Reynolds was the one that originally was the director on this movie. He shot it, but it was Kevin Costner that took over because they had a disagreement. Reynolds and Costner did. So Costner took over, and that's why he wanted James Newton Howard to score the film.
Well, and even Isham's score was really, really bleak. And
right. Yeah.
It was not what they were looking for.
And it's probably what Reynolds wanted. But yeah. And the thing is, I think even Isham said that Kevin Costner was looking for somebody that he had worked with before, because that makes him comfortable and he doesn't really have to collaborate much, or he doesn't have to guess what's going to happen with the score. He knows by working with James Newton Howard that he's going to get what he needs. And, a couple simple instructions, and then James Newton Howard can go out and write the score that Kevin Costner wants. So that makes sense to me. It does make sense to me, absolutely. But I mean but the thing is, this tiff, I mean, they didn't make up again until Hatfield and McCoy.
Yeah, and that was quite a while later.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, they had a string of there were two hits. There were Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. They also worked on they produced a film together, and then it came down to Waterworld, and it was just an absolute mess. But I think, for all the problems that they were having, this is not, as they say, Kevin's Gate or Fish Tar, because it wasn't a failure. It wasn't.
No,
it didn't make a.
It may have been super expensive to make.
Yes, it was, but it was top 10 in the United States. But it made a boatload of money overseas. So it wasn't a failure.
Also, James Newton Howard, he was able to use the sample library of Hans Zimmer for helping to round out some of the cues.
Yeah, the Hans Zimmer influence, I was always curious about that. Thank you in the credits of the original liner notes. And I'm like, what did Hans Zimmer do? But yeah, Hans Zimmer, heard about what had happened, and he knew that James Newton Howard was under the gun. And so, Hans Zimmer gave him everything. Everything that Hans Zimmer had, he threw at James Newton Howard, so that, composing the score and doing the electronics and all that sort of stuff was going to be a lot easier because with the rig that he already had, I think he said that if you wanted to just change one note, you would have to re-perform everything all over again. You just couldn't go in. And so with Hans Zimmer's personal library and samples, it was a lot easier for him to kind of rejig things and get it done. So yeah, that's tip my cap to Hans Zimmer for that one. And I mean, I guess that began their relationship because eventually they wanted to work together for the longest time, and then they eventually did on the first two Christopher Nolan Batman films.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. And I think that even James Newton Howard really believes that among this film or this score for Waterworld is among his best achievements. And no doubt why, because it's diverse, it's thematically entertaining, even has this eclectic feel to it because it does have these exotic, mystic allurements in the score. You know, there's these elements with the choir and the unique little sounds that are added into like the bells and the unique whistles and the didgeridoo, and you know, these different elements really create this amazing swashbuckling adventure.
I think that it could easily have been, you know, just a big 90-piece orchestra, but I think that you had to complement it with various different colors to match, you know, the atmosphere of the world, especially water. And I think that he, you know, the twinkling of all the, you know, the samples and it just adds, I mean, especially in one of the cues that we're going to play later, it just, there's such beauty to it as well. So, I mean, as much as this is a high octane action movie, there are some beautiful moments in it. And James Newton Howard really does help express that beauty through his music, but with a wonderful palette of organic instrumentation and electronic instruments. And like I said, it creates this unique palette that you really don't hear in any other score. So, I mean, this score can't be mistaken for anything else but Waterworld. And also listening to the score on its own, it's those quieter cues that utilize, you know, voices in choir and the electronics and the samples and lighter orchestral touches that really gives this wonderful kind of break to the action, lets you breathe a bit before you're, you know, thrown back into it again. And that really helps the pacing of the movie as well, because this is a brisk movie. I mean, except for kind of the bloated ending, and I'm not talking about the Exxon Valdez, I'm talking about what happens afterwards. I mean, this could have been a lot shorter, I think, and I think everything that needed to be said was said after the Exxon Valdez escape. I mean, seriously, let's talk about that. I mean, what in the world was the end game with the three people, including the deacon, on the jet skis, going towards one point? What were they going to do? Like, were they just going to put on the brake? Like, they obviously weren't going to put on the brakes because they smashed into each other. What was the end game for that one? So you know what I mean? I felt that like after, I personally think that the deacon's speech, the rescue of Enola, and the sinking of the Exxon Valdez was the perfect way to end the movie, because then it just seems like they're trying to add something else into it, and maybe actually seeing the deacon's death. It was just so unnecessary, and it was really goofy too. I mean, the whole bungee jump and the effects weren't good.
Well, it was real though. That was real.
Sure,
like he did actually bungee jump.
But it is really ridiculous, and it's just overblown at that point because you have this incredible sequence on the boat. You're finally on land, and you get some great stunts, huge explosion, and just that feels satisfying as the ending of the film. And just everything else after that seems bloated, with the exception of, you know, them eventually finding land, and I like all that too. But there's just a couple of sequences, especially that one sequence, the bungee sequence, it just seems like, oh my God, this is overkill. Because honestly, I think I think the pace is fine. And I can't see how a 3-hour version of this works at all. I mean, I know there's a few
I don't think it really does.
You know, what I think is also interesting to talk about is the reaction to the Mariner himself and him not being a likable character. And they were like, oh, Kevin Costner's just kind of like going through the paces. But I honestly do think, again, watching it back a couple of weeks ago, there's no reason for the Mariner to be a likable person. There's no reason for anybody in this world to be a likable person because nobody can trust anybody. And you see that right off the bat in the first sequence.
They're all in for themselves.
Exactly. So I can see why he's so cautious and he's keeping everything, you know, close to him. He's not explaining everything, and I actually love the reveal of where he gets his dirt from. I think that's fantastic. I also love the reveal that he's a mutant. I think that's utterly fascinating. But I can see why he's annoyed at everything. He doesn't want anybody to know what he does, because once that happens, then, you know, trouble starts. And that's exactly what happens in the Atoll. They find out too much and people panic. So I don't agree with the criticism that Kevin Costner and the Mariner here are unlikable, and that's a flaw. I think that is perfect for this character. And then he eventually grows to appreciate, especially Enola.
Other people. Yep.
Yeah. And that I like, and that he's willing to sacrifice himself for somebody for the first time in his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's growth.
Such a contrast.
Absolutely.
It's such a contrast.
Absolutely.
Because she talks nonstop.
Right.
And
But
he doesn't.
But he doesn't know. Yeah, right. He doesn't know how to react to that sort of thing. He's a loner, and he's a loner for a reason, because he's different. And here's the thing: Enola, an innocent child, appreciates him just for him, for nothing else. But she can also see his flaws, and she makes sure that she expresses them. And that does annoy the Mariner, but
it's part of the charm, though, too.
It's absolutely, and I have no problem with the character myself personally. I think the character's perfect, and I think his growth is perfect.
Oh yeah, when I've seen Waterworld, I never let other people influence their opinion of one of my favorite movies.
Right. But it just seems like a really odd thing to say about this character when that's exactly what this character is. And sure, he's not Indiana Jones, and maybe he's not your typical hero, but why would you want that? I have no problem cheering for him because he's our main character, and he doesn't have to be overly likable for me to cheer for him and to be excited whenever anything happens to him. Or, you know, there's two great shots at the opening when he's escaping the smokers for the first time. And it's a helicopter shot, but it's zoomed into his face, and then it zooms out, and you see him operating the it's not a catamaran, it's a trimarans. That's it. And I get a sense of who he is also by the music. He might be a loner, he might be unlikable, but the music is telling a different side where he can play the hero and he can be likable, and that's what's going to eventually happen to him later on down the road. So I think it's an odd criticism that really doesn't ring true at all.
Agreed. Because, I mean, we got to talk about that boat for a minute, because that is an awesome boat.
Isn't it? It
is so cool, because like how the different parts move and how the sail comes out and it's huge, it's massive, and it makes him be able to go faster because it's so much larger than everybody else's, and he can just escape. He can get away from whatever's chasing him, and he can, like, when he has Helen and Enola on there, he's like, all right, move over here, and they like tip the boat and he's like gliding off the boat, and it's just so cool. I love every bit of that boat.
Oh, it is. And I think it's great that it's a fully functional boat. This thing floats, and everything that, you know, everything works. All the little gadgets, and it's all there. And like I said, going back to, again, practical effects, they built that thing to function that way, and everything that Kevin or the Mariner needed to do in order to get away actually functioned that way. And I think it's genius. Absolutely genius. It's a great vehicle, and one that doesn't get a lot of respect, honestly.
Agreed.
Nobody talks about it.
Yeah,
It doesn't really have a name, I guess that's why, but it's such a cool movie vehicle.
Yep, agreed. And it's like, it's so sad when it gets to the point where they torch the boat.
Yes.
And it's like, oh.
Yeah, it hurts. I agree completely. Because I love that
It's
boat.
like, no. Yeah, it's such an awesome boat. And it's like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah, I agree.
It like cripples that character.
Yes, absolutely.
But one thing, it was interesting that James Newton Howard had practiced with Michael Kamen, who had referred to orchestral violence. And it was a lot of rhythm that isn't synthetic, it's not electronic, it's all orchestral. And like the Golden Ring is still writing big orchestral action music without the crutch of a loop attached to it. And James Newton Howard's style is old-fashioned, but it's not lazy writing. And he didn't ever write lazily for this film especially.
Yeah, I agree. And even if there are loops, which there are occasionally, and especially in one key action sequence, it's always interesting because it just changes the tone of the scene, but there is still a lot happening in the queue, maybe just later on down the queue, because there's a point where you hear this pulsating electronic beat, but there's still cymbal crashes and orchestral rumbling underneath it, and it's always, again, like I said, it's moving forward, but that kind of pulse really gets the blood pumping, and I think it's just a great device. And again, the orchestral coloring, the instrumental coloring in this score is just superb. And again, it's a replacement score, and to be brought in and then have that type of inspiration right away, I'm just in awe at any composer that has to come in late in the game, see a movie and automatically be inspired, and then to write something this good and to write something this memorable, but also something this interesting, is just it's a phenomenal work. Any composer that can do that, I tip my cap to them. And
well, because I think of not only Waterworld, but I think of like John Debney's Cutthroat Island, which at some point I want us to cover that, because that's an amazing piece of film work and scoring. It's high octane action music in action film. I mean, it's a swashbuckling adventure.
Yeah, and I mean, and like James Newton Howard said, and I think it was in the liner notes, it can be physically demanding as well, because he says when he's coming up with the ideas and the music and this and that, and there's a lot of percussion in this that he's trying to come up with, he's slamming his hands down on his keyboards, on drums, on desks, and everything like that, and it becomes physically exhausting as much as it is mentally exhausting. And I just, and even James Newton Howard says at the end of the La La Land Records CD, you get to kind of hear a bit of behind the scenes of the creation of the score, and it's like right at the end of the session, and he's talking about how this is one of the greatest experiences that he ever had.
Kind of amazed how emotional I feel right now. This has been a really amazing project for me. When Kevin asked me to get involved, like all of us, I had heard lots of sort of troubling things about the movie and wasn't sure what to expect, but as it turned out, it's been the most glorious and wonderful experience of my career. So I have Kevin to thank for that, and I have all of you to thank for executing it so just incredibly wonderfully and professionally as always. We've done over 40 movies together now in the last several years, and I've never enjoyed any of them as much as I've enjoyed this one. So you all just never fail to amaze me. I count myself the luckiest man on the planet. I have the greatest job in the world, and so fortunate to work with all of you. And there's so many people here that make me look good, and I just hope we all remember that. People like Brad Decter and Robert L. High, and Jeff Atmagia and Sandy and everybody, and all of you. Just, I owe so much to you, and thank you very much.
And you can even hear the praise that Kevin Costner gives as well to the score and to the process, and how much he actually enjoyed working on the movie for all of its faults and flaws. It was still a positive experience for both of them, and I think that's a fascinating aspect of this CD, to just kind of get that behind the scenes listen at the creation of the score.
Again, I find myself in this position of always getting so much credit and attention. I don't know how that worked out, but I do find myself front and center a lot. And I want you to know that I do know the path that got me here, and I know the road that it takes to stay here, and that is the way I believe the world works the best, and it's when you have the best people doing the best things together. And I do share this. I really share this moment with James. I've enjoyed these last 7-8 days. It's been a difficult year in my life, and this has been a really highlight for me. And I hope you take a great amount of pride in what you've been able to do for me, and because I won't forget it. And it's just a movie, no better, no worse. It's not life and death, it's not our children, it's not our friendships, but you brought your skill and your time, and I've said it before, it's worth saying again. I truly appreciate it, and this thought is very nice, will not be forgotten. Thank you.
It's illuminating, though. It's really illuminating because it kind of shaped even more action scores that were done even after this point. It was a stepping stone for action music, and not to write loops. I mean, there still was loops made, but being able to write music that really got to the heart of a person. You know what I mean? It really was something you could feel deep inside.
Well, you're still at a point in time where you literally just can't lay down a loop and then start writing over top of that and then say, look, I got my cue done. I mean, you've really got to think about everything that you're doing. And even if you're using electronics, it's just how you're going to use those to help reinforce the rest of the music. And that's what I find to be the most satisfying aspect of these types of scores, and not the modern day scores. It's just you're finding that you have a bit more creativity and thought process going into the score. And again, I'm not saying that modern day scores suck. I'm just saying that the technology is allowing composers to, I guess, do whatever they want, but then I find that it could also become, like, technology can become a crutch. Whereas,
for
here,
sure. Because here it wasn't a crutch.
Well, no, it added to it helped him create what he was hearing in his head, but everything that he heard in his head had to either be written down or performed, and there wasn't a button to press to go, string ostinato and drum beat, and you know what I mean? And again, there's nothing wrong essentially with that, but I just appreciate the creative approach of actually coming up with something that isn't pre-programmed. And I know I could probably get a lot of, whatever. I mean, you're just like, an old fart and you don't know what you're talking about. But I just find that if I'm listening to this compared to some of the modern scores.
But that's not the case.
Well, yeah, and I find this just way more interesting, way more dynamic, way more creative. there's just a lot of work, a lot more work that went into this, I find. And again, that's not necessarily the hallmark for a great score, but there's so much variety and there's so many unique sounds and unique things that James Newton Howard came up with, especially in this score, that just running a simple string ostinato that we've heard a million times, and then laying over a long line horn melody and slapping down 4 chords, that's great. Okay, anybody can do that. So, but like as a composer, I would hope that, and I keep harping on this, it's just, what can you do that is yours? And what can you do that can stretch your imagination, stretch your creativity? And I know that film music. Score, well, and I know film music.
What makes this score special?
Well, yeah, make it special, make it yours, make it your own, make it unique. Again, unique doesn't necessarily mean good, but and I know that scoring a film, you're not on your own. The director and the producer, they got to have something. And then in this day and age, you've got to write demos and you got to write a lot quicker. And so, I'm kind of lost in my thought here, but I just find that listening to Waterworld as a written piece of music than some of the modern tropes that we are hearing nowadays in a lot of modern Hollywood productions. That's plaguing, I think, modern Hollywood productions. And so, but it's a different era, different style. The directors want different things, but I think I appreciate somebody like Kevin Costner here. If you think about the projects that James Newton Howard worked with on Kevin Costner, some of the best work that James Newton Howard did was with Kevin Costner, because he trusted him, he knew what he was going to get, and he allowed him to do what he does without so much interference, from what I've read.
Yeah.
He let him do what he does best. It's like one of the things that directors really can't do is talk music. They can sort of tell you a feeling, but they can't, tell you exactly what chords or, hum a theme or whatever. And so as a director, you really have to communicate and make sure you know exactly what you're going to get out of your composer. But then at that point, it's just let your composer go and write, because he also has to get inspired. And that's the other thing, is that with music, it's essentially out of the director's control. He cannot get in there and write the music for himself, unless he's musically talented and can do that. But Kevin Costner is not going to write his score. So it is a hard thing for a director or producer to do, to say, all right, we're going to let you go off and do your thing, and hopefully you write something that is good enough for a movie. That's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to just let go, because every other aspect of the making of the film is under your control. So you have to have a very, very trusting relationship with your composer, which again goes back to probably why Mark Isham was let go. Again, nothing against Mark Isham. I don't think there was a rift or tiff between him and Costner. It's just Costner needed somebody that he can trust, and somebody that he knew could get the job done and do what Kevin Costner was sort of hearing in his head, and deliver the sort of score that he wanted. And that's what James Newton Howard did. And I like that. I like that type of, that trust within a director and a composer. It's like Steven Spielberg and John Williams. Spielberg can listen to a piano theme and go, all right, I hear the piano theme. I kind of hear that's the idea for the flying, for E.T., or that's the idea for whatever. And okay, go ahead and write. But it's also, film scoring so expensive. And what happens if, they write something and you get to the scoring stage and you got 90 players there and you got all these, and it just doesn't work. That's another gamble you have to take. And with millions and millions of dollars at stake here, like I said, it's coming down to the music. As a director, I could see why it's probably one of the most uneasy moments of the creation of the film, but also mostly becomes one of the greatest moments, because when you finally hear the music match to the visuals and it works, I don't think there's anything like it in the creation of the film. It's like once that music is married to the visuals, the film finally comes to life.
Yeah, and you get the blend of the music to the visuals and the sound, and how this is one of those films that, well, like when we were talking about Jurassic Park, John Williams really brought up the music at the right points. James Newton Howard did the same thing with Waterworld because he made you feel for the characters. He didn't go overblown with the score, making it too loud. He toned it down a few times, and with the action sequences, you needed loud music to be able to carry that scene, to really show the importance of the hero theme and the Mariners theme, and even the smoker theme, and how important that was to part of the story. So it all revolves around each other. But, we've discussed this before, that it's so important to have those balances. And a lot of modern scores, I still don't think have a good balance.
And I don't think you're wrong. I think that a lot of kind of big Hollywood blockbusters nowadays, it's just a wall of noise. I mean, yeah, you're dealing with a lot more nowadays, especially in the sound mix, and good luck getting your score heard over top of all of that stuff. But I find that, again, the mixes back then, they weren't overdone. They were quite dynamic, and there was room for music to breathe within the context of the movie. And I find that also helped in making you, of course, feel certain ways. And that was so great, because there were a lot of moments in this movie where all you are hearing is the music, and it's playing a huge role in pushing the drama forward. And also, I mean, there's a great build-up to the Mariners theme. It's that kind of galloping rhythm that, once that starts, and it takes a good, maybe 10, 15 seconds to get to the theme, but once that starts, you're like, oh my God, something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. It's like, it's getting you ready, for that climax. Yep. And it's so it's so good. And James Newton Howard is very good at that. Yep. Yes. Yeah. And so when I first heard that, especially in the opening Smokers chase cue, I'm like, where is this developing to? Yeah, escaping the smokers. And then all of a sudden it's like it explodes this main theme, and it's like, oh man, this is great. This is dynamite. And again, letting music play a role in the drama and helping manipulate the orchestra, the emotions and how you feel, and that's what music does. And I'm just absolutely appalled when I'm hearing constantly nowadays where anytime the music has something to say or manages to make you feel something, that is wrong. And I don't understand that, because if I don't understand it, it's the movies. Everything about the movies is emotional manipulation, and I'm not sure why music always gets struck down for being the only aspect that is manipulating your emotions. I don't
really.
I mean, why are you here then? Why are you watching this movie? Yeah. You're going to feel something no matter what.
You want to be able to feel something. Exactly. Otherwise, why go to the movies?
Yeah, and so every time I hear that theme, or hearing Deacon's speech, or hearing or the swimming cues, I'm just. There's so many great emotions that just wash over me, and it's just that makes for a great time at the movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
It's escapism. You know what I mean? It's like, it's getting away from your everyday life and you're like, let's just drop into this world and have a good time. And everything about that is in James Newton Howard's score to Waterworld. It's a good time.
It is. It is an excellent time. And that's what we're going to get into here with the cues. The first cue that we're going to talk about is Escaping the Smokers, which we've really covered quite a bit. And I mean, it plays in full variation with this cue, and you get that build up, and like you were talking about, you get that build up of the theme, and it's ramping up, it's amping up, it's getting faster, it's getting more beefy, and that builds your anticipation. Oh yeah, something is going to happen. And it's the perfect way to really think about how broad, bombastic, and like I mentioned before, that it's such a good swashbuckling adventure cue that doesn't stop. We hear it through the whole score. I mean, through a lot of portions in the score, it's brought back. And we hear it when Helen rescues the mariner, when they encounter different difficulties, like the skyboat. And I think, as we've discussed before, that this is James Newton Howard's finest action score ever, like that he's ever written. And I think hearing other cues that he's done, it's really good. Like, he's one of the top film composers that I can think of, but this one is so impressive to me.
And I think going back to the thought of Jerry Goldsmith for a minute, one thing that Jerry Goldsmith does is when he's writing a score, he's not a leitmotivic composer, and we brought this up during our Legend conversation. So he doesn't necessarily attach themes to characters or places. He essentially writes either an idea or writes the theme for the whole entire overarching story, or for the entire film itself, that can be manipulated in various different ways. Like a theme could be played heroically, or it could be played sad or romantically. And so what James Newton Howard has done here is he's basically given you the film's theme, which is attached to the Mariner, but it also goes through some incredible variations throughout the movie. But it's that one theme that really stands out as the film's main theme. So that sort of has a parallel to what Jerry Goldsmith used to do in his scores. So what I think is great about Escaping the Smokers, it's the way it contrasts the cue that came before it, which is the main titles, which is a quite bleak, percussive, heavy, atmospheric cue to introduce the Mariner. But of course we get that great speech, which explains what happened to the Earth and over time, over top of the Universal logo, right? The Universal logo turns into Earth, and then the water, takes over the land. It's really an interesting way of opening the music. And then we get this great helicopter shot through the clouds and into seeing the Mariner's boat.
The future. The polar ice caps have melted, covering the Earth with water.
But again, very, very, very bleak. And, I could see maybe that's where Mark Isham was going to go with it. But the contrast to that is that, oh my God, is this going to be a really serious kind of downer movie? But then once the Mariner just kind of kicks the boat into overdrive and all this stuff starts happening, the sails come out, and it explodes, like I said, into that galloping rhythm, which kind of, you're like, oh, what is that? And there's that build then to that magnificent shot of the Mariner, driving the boat and you get this incredible theme. It's just an earworm, and the great thing about it is also it's a long line theme, and it has a kind of an A and a B side to it, and you can really play around with it and just kind of pick it apart, and you know that that's the theme. And so that's why I'm, again, talking about modern film scores. I'm totally against these composers who are writing, you know, like, oh, I've only come up with a 3-note theme because that's all I need for the character. And I'm like, give me a break. You know how boring that one theme for 3 notes is going to get over the course of 2 hours if you're playing it all the time. Whereas here you get this, much like the Raiders March, or any other heroic theme written at the time, it's a really long sing-song type of theme that, again, it just sticks with you instantly. It's instantly memorable. There's no way that you can hear that for the first time in this film and not have that ingrained in your brain and listening to that throughout the whole film, but hearing snippets of it or portions of it or different variations of it and not understand what that is or where that's from. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't get boring, and it doesn't also get annoying. And that's what I love about, you know, composers who can write a dynamite melody that is longer than 3 notes, that can, you know, write it across 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 bars. And it's a skill that I think a lot of composers don't have these days. And again, we're working in a time, or they're working in a time now where melody is dying. I'm not saying that it's gone. Melody is still in film scores these days, but man, that, much like feeling something in a film score, having a melody just seems like to be like the no thing to do. You can't have one, and I don't understand that either. I don't understand it. So anyway, it's great that this film got this type of fun adventure theme that just works magnificently.
Yeah. So now let's play Escaping the Smokers. All right, so we've discussed one of the high points in the score for Escaping the Smokers. The next one I'd like to focus on is not a lot, but swimming. The swimming cue. It's such a well executed, simple piece of music. I think what James Newton Howard does with this cue alone is he brings in that choir, and you get them in the background and they're just flowing right along with you. Being able to see Enola in the water and learn how to swim. And because the weirdest part is she is a character in a film that's dealing with a world covered in water, and yet she doesn't know how to swim. Really seeing the influence of Jerry Goldsmith, how we discussed earlier, how it rings true again, that like you can feel how this cue really stands out as that innocence.
Yeah, what this cue does is essentially lets you relax a bit. It lets you feel a different emotion besides the bleakness of this world, where you get a lot of sick people, people on their own, nobody trusts anybody, just horrible, psychotic, crazy people. I mean, you don't know who you're going to deal with, and you can't trust anybody. And so, yeah, it is odd that Enola can't swim, but then again, she's probably been snatched up from land and never was taught how to swim, and she was also most likely being kept in the shadows by Helen to keep her safe. So there was never time for her to get into the water. And so, up to this point in this movie, Helen and Enola are just absolutely annoying the mariner. And there is a scene before this where, the mariner has to dump some quote-unquote cargo. And he was going to dump Enola earlier on. But then there was a point where she got so annoying, I think it was because she was stealing all of his crayons and drawing on his boat, that he decided to pick her up and toss her into the water, and that's where we find out that she can't swim. But soon enough, their relationship begins to blossom, and the mariner lets down his guard and now will offer his help to help Enola swim. And it's a very sweet scene, and you can just tell by looking on the faces of Enola and the mariner, they're enjoying their time together in the water, and she's not afraid of the water anymore, and that she can have some fun. And that's the first time that she's had fun on this boat since she's got on it. But I think that to represent that kind of free-flowing experience, James Newton Howard plays it really, really light and plays delicate instruments. The harp and woodwinds, very, very light strings, but it has a bit of a sense of wonder, and at times will remind me of what he would eventually come up with in his mystical cues for Atlantis, the Lost Continent, but there's also this wonderful glistening, twinkling sound about it. Again, basically represents the way the water is, reflected. The light is reflected off the water. It's really a wonderful synergy between the score and the visuals. But the way it then ends, again, just kind of showcasing a bit of innocence and this kind of angelic sound. It's the extra color that he adds into it, which is the voices. It's that solo voice as well that is just so calming and so relaxing and so lovely that you're sort of letting your guard down a bit here. And I think that's what makes this cue so special and could get lost amongst all the action. But once you get to this point, you realize that James Newton Howard he's just on a whole other level here, where he can also bring the bombast, but also can just bring it all down to some simple or minimal instrumentation and write a gorgeous cue.
Yeah, exactly. And so now let's go ahead and play Swimming. The next cue we should discuss is the skyboat, because it encompasses, to me, more of the Mariner's theme, along with the smoker theme. And the Mariners theme really turns into a hero theme in this piece. How it has some synthetic didgeridoo and some more excellent percussion pieces. And the thing about, I mean, we've discussed this at length in this episode. James Newton Howard really amps up the action in this scene, of how they're trying to get Enola and they're trying to get the boat. And even Helen kind of adds to that chaos because she goes ahead and shoots the harpoon gun, and it just wreaks havoc on the boat in some ways. But I find this piece to be so action oriented, and it's just amazingly shot. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great sequence. I think, again, just, seeing a real, skyboat plane, flying around a real boat in the water, and it wrapping itself around the boat with the possibility of crashing into it once they get to the end of the rope, and then the mariner trying to free the rope so none of that happens. It is a race against time, and I absolutely love this sequence, and especially when the mariner just gets slingshotted off from the top of the kind of the crow's nest there into the water. It's like, whoa, what the heck happened? And obviously he's really ticked off at that point. I think it's after this that he does he throw or does he cut their hair? Does he cut their hair at that point? Yeah, cuts all their hair off. Yeah,
because they touch stuff on his boat.
So it's really interesting here, and I'm wondering whether it was because it was a time crunch for James Newton Howard, but about the first 2 minutes of this cue is essentially a retread of his opening the gates music when Helen is freeing the mariner. The cue after that, this 2 minutes plays at that point, so that had happened earlier on in the film. So he's basically reusing the music at this point. However, in the movie, at the point when the original music comes in, stuff that we haven't heard before, it's right when Enola is drawing what's happening. Like she has she's drawing the boat attached to the plane by the harpoon, which was shot by Helen. So both the pilot, Jack Black, and the mariner are scrambling to free the boat. And so at that point, that's where James Newton Howard has introduced this electronic beat underneath it, this running electronic, really fast ostinato that it almost feels like a heartbeat. And it's got a really interesting rhythm to it, but over top of that, you're getting, splashing cymbals and hard-hitting percussion and just these wild dissonant horns, including a real kind of like minor, off, not as heroic playing of the Mariners theme, which I think is performed by orchestra and choir, really awe-inspiring, but not as, like I said, as free-flowing and as joyous or up-tempo as we've heard the theme before. So it's a bit disappointing that we're hearing music that we've already heard before, but again, it could be kind of because of the time crunch, and that's what was fitting into this sequence. But it's the stuff about 2 minutes after this cue starts that it's really, really interesting blend of electronics and kind of real dissonant, suspenseful music, along with a very interesting variation of the Mariners theme, in which covers an absolutely thrilling and awe-inspiring sequence in the movie.
Agreed. It's fantastic. So let's go ahead and play the Skyboat. Next, what I'd like to discuss is the bubble. Now, this encompasses a sequence that I think, I mean, they say it's not computer generated, but it's got to be. Like, unless they have miniatures that they're using.
Yeah, I'm
for
sure
this
it's
sequence.
I'm sure it's like blue screen matched with some miniature photography.
Yeah, because I mean, it's all just like the worst possible case scenarios of like a submarine in the middle of a city, and this submarine is giant. Like, I don't know how that submarine is so large.
Subs are huge, man.
But
They are
yeah,
huge.
they are. But it's like positioned next to a skyscraper.
Yeah, it's
And,
not contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. But it's such a good scene because it fills you with this awe. Because up to this point, we don't know still where he got the dirt. We don't know where he got the dirt. And he says something to Helen, and Nola's to stay up on top to watch the meter. But he's like, you want to see dry land? I'll take you to see dry land. And so he has her get in the bubble and he takes her down. And it's like an awe-filled cue to really show what happened to this world. And even though it's done with miniatures and everything like that, it still gives you this amazing sense of the underwater part of the world. And of course, the mariner doesn't need a bubble. He can breathe underwater. So obviously he's right there. He's able to show what happened and how the world is like below them, and that it never went anywhere. That they just thought that it just wiped away because of all the water. But it was shown that it was a myth, dry land being a myth. But it never left. So I thought that was really an eye-opening piece in the film, as well as in the music, to illustrate that point.
It's a key scene, along with a key cue in the score. It's an exposition scene where there is absolutely no dialogue. A lot is explained in this. How long is it? About 3 minutes long?
Yeah, and you don't need it. You don't need the dialogue.
And you're seeing it, and you can make up. You understand what's going on, and I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it makes sense. And I like how everybody assumes that he has seen dry land, but he's of course using his mutation to his benefit, and grabbing the dirt from the seabed, drawing that out, and using that as currency to make his way throughout Waterworld, because dirt it's like gold. It's the most valuable thing, I guess, next to paper, in this world.
Paper.
But I think that
I love and hate that guy.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's Canadian, by the way. He's from Saskatchewan. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And it's the cue begins like you're not really sure what you're going to see, and I think that is perfectly spelled out in the cue that James Newton Howard wrote, like for the first little while. It's very ominous, where we see the buildings, where we're seeing really nothing. So it's like we're just in the water, we're in the darkness, but then once we see a building under the surface and then get into the city for the first time. And so we're seeing a shot, I think, from the side, and we're seeing the buildings and them swimming through it. That's when James Newton Howard really lets loose with a big, almost religioso cue with these very, very religious styled harmonies that are backed by, chorus, and then you hear this the arpeggio strings that really add a sense of wonder and mystery to the whole cue. It's beautiful stuff. And again, it really kind of goes back to, or not back to, jumping forward a few more years, is something that he would write for the Crystal Chamber music. A lot of what is being explored here in Waterworld, yeah, you'll get that in the Crystal Chamber cue from Atlantis. So you get that awe and wonder, and they do it. James Newton Howard does it so well. But then the piece jumps right from this organic, orchestral, choral, religious sound to these droning electronics, these grinding electronics with this kind of pulse underneath it all that's signaling the danger that waits above for Helen and the Mariner when they resurface. So really, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of emotions being expressed in this cue. It's again another master stroke by James Newton Howard in the score.
Oh, agreed. It's really well constructed. And so let's go ahead and play The Bubble. I hope you enjoyed that cue. By the way, we forgot to mention about some of the samples that lend to the ethnic otherworldly sounds. And that really is highlighted a lot with like this gravitas of the massive orchestra and the apocalyptic choir, which includes Steve Porcaro of Toto, who of course did the score to Dune. He designed some of the non-orchestral sonorities that gave the score its distinct personality. I always find that interesting is when you can refer to a score that it has its own personality. Because with James Newton Howard, I think that any of his scores, really, they stand all by themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, James Newton Howard has his own voice. It's a distinct voice. I mean, you can tell when he's writing a score, but he's done so many different styles of scores. Some from a very percussive, heavy score to like Blood Diamond to, a lighthearted comedy score to Dave, where he can write this gigantic fanfare for Grand Canyon. But then he can write something like Michael Clayton, very sparse. But then he comes back and he does like, giant Western, like, Wyatt Earp, and he does Waterworld, and he can write a super influential score to The Fugitive. So, I mean, his voice is quite distinct. You can definitely hear, James Newton Howard isms. And like, when you're hearing a James Newton Howard score, but he's just not writing in one style, and he's willing to experiment, go outside of his comfort zone, try something new, try something different, work with different people.
Well, like Porcaro.
Well, yeah, and that's it. And maybe he wasn't able to come up with those ideas himself, and so he thought, hey, I know this guy who can do what I need, and let's bring him in. And I got no problem with that. I mean, I find that if there's this myth that, a composer working in a bubble is the best way for a film score to be created, where I have really no problem with composers working in a team. I mean, if you find that someone else can do something a bit better than you, even though maybe you've come up with an idea, but you're like, I don't know how to do that, so I know this guy who can orchestrate, this cue in a certain way that I can't do, or whatever, then I have no problem with that. As long as the score comes out great, I don't care really who wrote what, unless, of course, the people who are writing those cues, if they're not credited and they're just ghostwriting, I kind of have a problem with that. So give credit where credit is due. So John Williams wants to write world-class scores, so he surrounds himself with world-class performers. And that's just the way that he wants his music to sound, and that helps complement what he's thinking about in his head when he's writing the score. So, if like Hans Zimmer wants to surround himself with an Irish band for An Everlasting Peace, or a swing band in A League of Their Own, or whatever, that's fine. That's the sound that he wants to get, but those guys are the experts, so why would you not collaborate with them? Anyway, I digress.
But it's great. And so now we can, because that really was referring to the swimming cue, because of the Asian sounding flow of
it's otherworldly
cue.
music to an American audience, right?
Yeah.
Or to a North American audience, right? That's exotic. That's different, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah, it's great though. It really
it is
added
absolutely
to
beautiful,
that.
beautiful, unique colors. It's perfect
For sure. Yeah. So now we're getting to the crux of one of the best action pieces of music for the entire score, that the very cue that wore out my CD. And that is the deacon's speech. And also the cue that takes place right before it, arriving at the D's, that also is part of that, like part of the skipping on my CD, because I played it so much. But I love the percussion in this piece with the deacon's speech, the design of how it's presented. It's one of the best cues I've heard in film music for me, for an action piece of music. The best action, the best sound, and the tempo. It doesn't let up. And it really brings you to a climax with the cue, "Why Aren't You Rowing?" With the simple horns being played as we watch the mariner come closer and closer to the large opening in the ship. I just think the whole sequence is just fabulous, and Enola's like commentary is great. It's just awesome because you see him doing all this action on the boat, and she's right there with him. Even though she's not in the same room, but she's right there with him, explaining what he does. I love it.
Yeah, this is where the mariner becomes a legend, folk hero. It's the way you're right. It's the way she's explaining him, and also we now have established a connection between Mariner and Enola, and she knows that he's going to come for her and save the day. I just think that this cue is just an incredible montage cue. It just fits everything that's happening while the deacon is making his speech, and the mariner is, landing on the Exxon Valdez and then making his way through and trying to get to Enola. It is just incredible. I remember the first time hearing this cue as well on CD, and I'm like, what is this? It's a toe tapper. And I wrote in our notes here that it's like symphonic rock and roll. And the way I think, I would like to think that maybe this idea first came about on the guitar. Like kind of played on low strings, that like it would be like this great rock beat. You know what I mean? Just this dun 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 dun. And I'm like, that's amazing. I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody out there, I think it's an odd meter theme or an odd metered piece as well. So what that does is keeps you on edge, but also helps the piece move along. Again, something that Jerry Goldsmith does or used to do, in his sleep. So it just has this great drive to it, just huge, expansive melodies. It's using the entire orchestra, the chorus, everything about it. It seems like it's coming to this incredible climax, and we're finally going to see this great big battle that's just going to end this movie in a spectacular way. And as I said earlier, I think that this battle on the Exxon Valdez should have been the last part of the movie, because the stunts are absolutely incredible. It's a last-second escape, and it's so amazing. But it's just this cue that drives everything and gets you excited and set for what is going to happen next. And it is I like he said, I first heard this and I just wanted to repeat it over and over again. It just has just this muscular drive to it. It's so, awesome. Really awesome.
It really is. So now let's go ahead and play the deacon's speech. with what we've covered today, we're down to our last cue for this episode. It's called the main credits. It is just such a full orchestral masterpiece. And here's something that I wanted to bring out regarding this piece. It's not very long. It's actually fairly short. But there, of course, as we know, there are two versions of this film. There's the theatrical version, and then there's the television version that actually was the extended cut. They created the DVD Blu-ray combo called the Ulysses cut. And basically, it's all the material that they used in the TV version, but it was all from the extended edition. And all the added music cues and the extended music box cue. But with this, one thing that I don't think that we need, because we don't get it in the theatrical version, but the extended cut shows us where they're at. Like when they reach dry land, we actually see one of the last scenes in the film is a plaque that's sitting there on this giant or tall hill where they can see the mariner leaving, and it's for Mount Everest. And I don't think we needed it, but it's a moment in even the score and how like awe-inspiring the effect that Mount Everest has on people. And even with the island, the island's massive, and it's, just right there, a dry land, it's everywhere. But it's just a brilliant ending credits cue that just starts so slowly. It just flows so well and is so mesmerizing and comforting in a lot of ways for the part of the cue. What's your thoughts, Erik?
Yeah, it's the most gentle version of the Mariner's theme, played so beautifully, and once you get into kind of those lower strings of the B part of the theme, it's so lovely. So yeah, this plays over top of just the kind of the main credits that pop up at the end, and then once they start rolling and it fades to black, the credits where it's just edited music from the score itself. So this is the only original piece that is played. Yeah, very, very short, but it's really lovely as we see the mariner who's decided that he, in the theatrical cut, misses his boat and just wants to get back on the water. But then I think it's the extended cut where he decides that he wants to find more of his kind. So that's why he goes off onto the sea again and doesn't stay on the island. You're right. We didn't need to know that it was Everest. I didn't care where it was. It's like the geography of this movie, it just doesn't matter. They found dry land and it's great. So, but yeah, once this movie ends and you get this beautiful playing of, it could easily have been this high, tempo, march, but it's just so, we get the beautiful vista, right, from up above the hill, and we're watching the mariner go out to sea, and it's just a gorgeous playing of the film's main theme. So I think they struck the right chord with this cue.
Exactly. And we can just really appreciate it. So this is another end to Soundtrack Alley, and I've got to commend you and David Cassina and Rob Daniels and Jason Drury for doing Legend. That was a brilliant episode. It was a bit long, but I think it was really well done. You guys did a great job doing that for Soundtrack Alley. And we gotta tell our listeners that they can enjoy all the fine programming on Cinematic Sound Radio. Check out my recent interview with Craig Saffin on soundtrackalley.com. It's not about a film score. It's about his own album called LAX. That's EX. It's like a love letter to his growing up years in LA. And it's really a unique interview. And you learn some stuff about him that he's actually really he really does a good job at doing full scores that really have no breaks in them. He told me about the Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney, and that's one of the scores that he mentions that he's done. And then we also want to look forward to rubbing our hands together, Erik. And this one I want you to be involved with is Stargate.
Yeah, I could
Jason wants to do Stargate, and I'm like, oh, I can definitely convince Erik to do Stargate with us.
Oh, totally, I could do that. Yeah, that was another eye-opening score when I heard that for the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, where, who, what, where, when, how? This is so great.
Yeah. That's going to be an amazing film to talk about. And also, Jason wants to talk about The Last Starfighter.
Oh my goodness. You're just talking my language here. You're speaking, oh man, that is, if that is the quintessential 1980s film and score. It's just so full of hope and positivity, and it just makes you want to be the last starfighter. Like, oh man, all of the emotions, of the emotions with watching that movie.
And like, you can go back in my archive collection of my podcast and check out the interview I did initially with Craig Saffin, and it was about The Last Starfighter. But I have a little bird that's told me that Jason's doing, well, it was Jason himself, because I got his introduction to that through Craig. So he's going to be interviewing Craig and talking about all his music and stuff. And he's on cloud 9 about it.
Absolutely.
So, so he's really excited about that. And then after that, we're going to talk Star Trek Generations.
Oh, we're getting into the Next Generation movies, huh?
Yep. Yeah. This is that blend, of the original cast and the Next Generation crew.
I'm excited to talk about it because I think Dennis McCarthy's score gets wrongly lambasted by the film music community. I actually think it's a damn good score. And it does sound like portions of his television writing for Next Generation, but I think that there's a lot more going on in the score that there aren't too many people that give it the credit that it deserves. So I'm more than happy to defend that score here on the program.
Oh yeah, definitely. So any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to add regarding Cinematic Sound Radio today?
No, it's just we are so busy, and there are so many things going on. Like, we got our 25th anniversary celebrations coming up in September. I'm still trying to figure out what we're doing for that.
Oh, we got to do a roundabout.
Oh, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm not 100% certain on that one. But another thing is, if you can, and if you haven't joined the Cinematic Sound Patreon, then please do. You can join us for as low as $1 a month. But there's a lot of great perks out there, and there's going to be more that we're going to be adding to the tiers. So, if you want to program your own show, you can do that. If you want to listen to old FM broadcasts of Cinematic Sound Radio, you can do that only on Patreon. There's the Discord server. We're not on it all the time, but if you just want to chat with some great film music fans, then that's a place to go. But yeah, if you just want to send us a couple of bucks and help support the program and help pay for things like, web hosting and things of that sort, then we really do appreciate the support. So it's patreon.com/cinematic sound radio.
Thank you, Erik. And I'd like to thank Alexander Shebel for composing Soundtrack Alley's theme music. You can check out his work at xanderscores.com. So to close the show, without further ado, we're going to play the last cue for Waterworld, and it's the end credits. So until next time, happy listening.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cinematic Sound Radio Network. I want to thank Tim Burton for providing his voice for all the bumpers and stingers you hear throughout the program, and David Cosina for providing Cinematic Sound Radio's theme music. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at cinematicsound@yahoo.com. You can find us on social media at CinSound Radio on Twitter and Cinematic Sound on Facebook. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment right now to rate the show and write a brief review. Reviews help introduce potential listeners to the show. And while you're at it, head over to TeePublic to get a Cinematic Sound Radio t-shirt. And don't forget to check out Cinematic Sound Radio at cinematicsound.net.